Chapter 1, The Summer List. Carson believed most problems could be solved with the right tools, enough light, and the patience to take something apart without getting angry at it. People were harder. He wiped his hands on a red shop rag already stained beyond salvation and leaned against the front bay door of Carson Automotive, watching his hydraulic lift lower a Honda Civic back to the concrete floor. The hiss of compressed air faded into the familiar symphony of his shop, a radio murmuring classic rock, a pneumatic wrench rattling in the back bay, the distant laughter of the high school kid manning the register. It was a good day, a normal day. Those were the days he trusted. Jason was 42, divorced, and the kind of man who measured time in oil changes and school calendars. His kids, Ethan, 15, and Lily, 13, lived with their mother 3 towns over. He got 4 days a month and every other holiday, like visitation was a subscription service with limited access. He hated it. He dealt with it, but he hated it. Summer was different. For 2 months every year, the custody schedule bent in his favor. The kids stayed with him, filled his house with noise, opinions, and socks that never quite made it into the laundry basket. And all year long, whenever an idea crossed his mind, something Ethan might like, something Lily might roll her eyes at but secretly enjoy, Jason typed it into a note on his phone titled simply, Summer. Last night, they'd sat at the kitchen table going through it together. Okay, Ethan had said, scrolling. Why does this say midnight milkshakes? Jason shrugged. Because sometimes rules are flexible. Lily squinted at the screen. You wrote, teach Lily to drive go-kart. Not car yet. Rude. Accurate, Jason said mildly. They'd voted, crossed things out, added new ideas. Jason had watched them argue and compromise and finally agree, and he told them, this is what respect looks like. Listening. Making space for each other. Ethan had nodded like that was obvious. Lily had smiled like she was filing it away for later. Jason carried moments like that with him. They made the rest bearable. The bell over the shop door jingled and Mark, the after-school helper, poked his head in. Boss? There's someone across the street taking pictures of the old diner. Jason glanced up. Across the road sat the building everyone still called Rosie's. Even though Rosie had passed away nearly a decade ago, the diner had closed the same week, its red vinyl booths visible through dusty windows like abandoned props from a forgotten play. Now there was a woman standing on the cracked sidewalk, phone raised, turning in slow circles. She with the city? Mark asked. Doesn't look like it, Jason said. The woman wore jeans, a soft blue jacket, and sneakers dusted with paint. Her hair, dark brown with lighter streaks catching the sun, was pulled into a loose knot that suggested she'd given up fighting it sometime before lunch. A realtor's car pulled away from the curb. Jason frowned. That was new. He went back to work, but every few minutes his eyes drifted to the front bay, to the diner, to the woman now testing the door and peering inside. An hour later, Jason was under a pickup truck when Mark called out, Jason? She's coming over here. Jason slid out from under the truck and stood, wiping his hands again. The woman crossed the street with an easy confidence that suggested she wasn't prone to second-guessing herself. She stopped a few feet away, smiling. Hi, she said. I'm not interrupting, am I? Only if you need your oil changed, Jason said automatically. She laughed, quick and unforced. Good to know. I'm Mary Springs. Jason Carson. He gestured around him. This is pretty much my whole personality. Auto mechanic with a sense of humor, she said. Dangerous combination. So I've been told. She glanced back at the diner. I'm thinking about buying it. That got his attention. You are? Yes. I know it's been sitting forever, but I have this idea. Let me guess, Jason said. Modern cafe. Edison bulbs. Overpriced toast. Mary made a face. Absolutely not. I'm thinking full 1950s diner. Roller skating servers. Chrome. Neon. Speakers outside playing oldies. Jason stared at her. She tilted her head. Too much. No, he said slowly. Just unexpected. I like unexpected, she said. Life's boring otherwise. He found himself smiling despite himself. You realize half this town still thinks it's 1978. Perfect, Mary said. They'll barely notice the difference. Jason nodded toward the garage. If you do go through with it and need help, electrical, metal work, fixing things that were last repaired during the Eisenhower administration, I'm your guy. I was hoping you'd say that, she said. I've got a 13-year-old daughter who thinks this is either the best or worst idea I've ever had. Jury's out. Join the club, Jason said. 2 kids. Teenagers. They live to vote against me. Mary's smile softened. Divorced. Yeah. Me too. They stood there, the words settling between them. Not heavy, just acknowledged. Well, Mary said finally, stepping back. Wish me luck. Good luck, Jason said. I mean it. As she walked away, Jason watched the empty diner with new eyes. For the first time in years, it didn't look abandoned. It looked like something waiting to start. And Jason, much to his own surprise, felt like he might be waiting too. Chapter 2, Grease Under the Fingernails. The first sign that Mary Springs was serious came in the form of a dumpster. Jason noticed it early one Tuesday morning, parked crookedly in front of the old diner like it had dropped from the sky and decided to stay. By noon there were two more, and by closing time, the windows of Rosie's were glowing with interior light for the first time in years. Jason told himself he wasn't watching. He was just observant. Mechanics had to be. Still, by Thursday, when Mary walked into Carson Automotive holding a folded set of papers and looking faintly overwhelmed, he wasn't surprised. "Tell me you're good with ancient wiring," she said, not bothering with hello. Jason looked up from the carburetor he was rebuilding. "Depends. Is it dangerous and poorly documented?" "Yes. Then I'm excellent." She laughed, relief softening her shoulders. "I officially own the building as of yesterday, and I officially discovered that half the outlets don't work. The breaker box is creative, and something back there smells like regret." "Welcome to vintage real estate," Jason said, setting the carburetor aside. "Let me grab my meter." They crossed the street together, Jason carrying a toolbox, Mary talking rapidly as if silence might invite doubt. "I know it's a lot," she said, "and everyone keeps asking why I didn't just lease something turnkey. But this place felt right." Jason nodded. "Rosie fed half this town. People still talk about her meatloaf like it was a religious experience." Mary smiled. "That's what I'm hoping for. Not the meatloaf specifically. Just a place people come back to." Inside, the diner smelled like old grease and fresh paint. The booths were gone, the counter stripped down to bare metal. Sunlight slanted across the floor, highlighting dust motes and possibility in equal measure. Jason crouched by the breaker box. "You've got knob and tube remnants spliced into something newer. That's not ideal." Mary grimaced. "Can it be fixed?" "Yeah," he said. "Won't be cheap, but it's fixable." She exhaled. "Good." As he worked, she hovered nearby, handing him tools before he asked, asking questions that weren't dumb but weren't technical either. More about process than specifics. "How did you end up with the garage?" she asked. "Family business," Jason said. "My dad started it. I took over after he passed." "Do you like it?" He thought for a moment. "Most days." "And the other days?" He shrugged. "The other days, I remind myself I'm good at it." Mary nodded like that made perfect sense. They worked in companionable silence for a while. Jason fixed 2 dead outlets and labeled 3 breakers that had been lying about what they controlled. When he straightened, his back popped. "Occupational hazard," he muttered. Mary grinned. "I'll put that on the menu." They stood near the front windows, looking out at the street. "Your place gets busy," Mary said. "Especially Sundays." Jason smiled. "That's restoration day. Open shop. Anyone working on a project car can come by. Turns into a potluck half the time." "Sounds like a lot of work." "It is," he said. "But it's the good kind." She hesitated. "Would it be weird if I came by sometime? Just to see?" "Only if you don't like old men arguing about carburetors." "I grew up with brothers," she said. "I'll be fine." The following Sunday, Mary showed up with her daughter, Sophie. Sophie was 13, sharp-eyed, and unimpressed in the way only 13-year-olds could manage. She surveyed the parking lot full of classic cars, folding her arms. "So," she said, "this is where you're planning to spend all your time?" Mary smiled patiently. "Some of it." Jason emerged from the garage, wiping his hands. "You must be Sophie." Sophie nodded. "You're the car guy." "Guilty." She peered past him. "Is that a Camaro?" Jason followed her gaze to the car under a tarp in the back bay. "It will be." "For who?" "My son," Jason said. 16th birthday. Sophie raised her eyebrows. "That's a lot." Jason chuckled. "You sound like his mother." Mary shot him a look. Careful. But she was smiling. Jason's kids arrived the following week, tumbling out of his truck with bags and opinions. Ethan spotted the diner first. "Is that new?" "New old," Jason said. Lily squinted. "Why is there a giant jukebox being wheeled inside?" "Long story," Jason said. "You'll meet the owner soon." They did, when Lily tripped over a stack of menus and Sophie caught her arm before she hit the ground. "Nice reflexes," Lily said. "Nice shoes," Sophie replied, eyeing Lily's mismatched sneakers. They became friends faster than Jason expected, bonding over mutual disdain for adults who tried too hard. The diner opened for a soft launch 2 weeks later. No roller skates yet. Mary was easing into that. But the chrome gleamed, the booths were red and glossy, and the air smelled like coffee and fries. The sheriff showed up opening day, parked his Studebaker out front, and never really left. "This place," he said, sipping coffee. "This place gets it." Jason sat at the counter watching Mary work. She moved with confidence now, calling orders, laughing when a milkshake machine sputtered. "You okay?" she asked, sliding him a plate of fries. "Yeah," he said. "Just glad you did this." She met his eyes, something warm and uncertain passing between them. "Me too," she said. Outside, the Camaro waited. Across the street, the diner buzzed. And Jason realized that for the first time in a long while, the spaces in his life weren't empty anymore. They were filling, slowly, carefully, with people who chose to be there. Chapter 3, Wheels, Wobble, and Other Bad Ideas, Jason learned two important things the morning Mary introduced roller skates. First, gravity had not softened with age. Second, the universe had a cruel sense of timing. He discovered both facts while standing in the diner's back hallway, holding a crate of napkin dispensers, when Mary rolled past him. Rolled. On bright red skates. She wore cuffed jeans, a white button-down tied at the waist, and a grin that was somewhere between thrilled and terrified. She wobbled slightly, caught herself on the counter, and laughed. Jason froze. No. Mary turned, rolling backward with surprising competence. No what? No skates, he said. Absolutely not. Sophie, perched on a stool nearby, snorted. Too late. I said eventually, Jason insisted, like, after a safety meeting, and maybe a signed waiver. Mary pushed off again, gliding a few feet. Relax, I practiced. Where? Empty parking lots. YouTube tutorials. A woman named Linda who skates competitively and yells encouragement. Jason looked heavenward. Of course there is. The bell over the door jingled as customers trickled in. Sunday regulars who had already adopted the diner as a companion to the garage across the street. The sheriff took his usual booth, Studebaker gleaming outside like it belonged in a museum with better coffee. Ethan and Lily burst through the door moments later. Ethan stopped short. Whoa! Lily's eyes lit up. She's skating. I am, Mary said proudly. That's awesome, Lily declared. Dad won't even ride a bike without a helmet. Jason pointed at her. I don't ride bikes. I walk with intention. Sophie rolled her eyes. You're all very loud. Mary pushed herself back to the counter, breathing hard but smiling. Okay, first official test run. If I fall, we regroup. Jason set the napkin dispensers down carefully. If you fall, I'm installing seatbelts on the booths. She laughed again, and something loosened in his chest. He didn't like the skates. He liked that she'd gone for it anyway. The morning passed in controlled chaos. Mary skated carefully, Sophie acted as unofficial spotter, and Lily followed them around like a stage manager offering unsolicited advice. Shorter strides. Bend your knees. Don't lean like that, you'll die. I will not die, Mary said, narrowly avoiding a collision with the pie display. I will thrive. Jason worked the counter when needed, poured coffee, wiped tables. Across the street, the garage was already buzzing. Classic cars lining the lot, hoods open, people arguing cheerfully about engines and paint codes. At noon, the bell jingled again, and half the restoration crowd wandered in, bringing with them the smell of oil and sun-warmed asphalt. Skates? One of them asked. Mary saluted. Living dangerously. Jason leaned close to her. If someone sues you, I'm pretending I don't know you. She bumped his shoulder with her hip as she rolled past. You'll defend me. You're loyal. He watched her go, surprised by the truth of it. Later, when the rush died down, Mary collapsed into a booth, pulling the skates off with a groan. I forgot muscles existed in my feet, she said. Jason slid a milkshake across the table. Chocolate. Recovery protocol. She took a long sip. You didn't skate. Correct. Ethan leaned over. Why don't you skate? Jason didn't miss a beat. Because I respect my limitations. Lily grinned. Because he's scared. Jason raised an eyebrow. I rebuilt a transmission blindfolded once. That doesn't involve wheels on your feet, Lily said sweetly. Mary watched him, eyes bright with challenge. Just once. No. For me. No. For the kids. Jason sighed. You're all conspiring. 5 minutes later, he stood in the diner hallway wearing borrowed skates, gripping the wall like it might run away. This is a terrible idea, he announced. Sophie held up her phone. For the record. Jason shot her a look. If this ends up online, you'll be famous, she said. Mary took his hands. I've got you. He met her eyes, saw the sincerity there, and nodded. Okay. Slowly. He pushed off. Immediately regretted it. The world tilted. His feet went in opposite directions. He windmilled, caught Mary's shoulders, and they both laughed. Hers delighted, his panicked. I'm going to die in a diner, Jason said. My obituary will be humiliating. You're doing great, Mary said. Tiny steps. He shuffled forward, clumsy but upright. The kids cheered like he'd won an Olympic medal. There, Mary said. See. Jason exhaled, triumphant, then hit a wet spot near the counter. They went down together. Not hard, not graceful, but laughing so hard Jason forgot to be embarrassed. When they finally sat up, Mary's hand was still on his arm. For a moment, neither moved. Then the bell jingled. Reality reasserted itself, and they stood, brushing themselves off. Never again, Jason said. Worth it, Mary replied. That evening, after the diner closed and the garage lights still burned across the street, Jason worked on the Camaro. Orange paint gleamed under the fluorescence, the black stripes masked and waiting. Ethan hovered nearby. It's almost done. Yeah, Jason said quietly. You really did all this for me? Jason didn't look up. Every bolt. Ethan nodded, swallowing something unspoken. It's a lot. Jason smiled. You're worth a lot. Across the street, Mary locked up the diner, skates slung over her shoulder. She paused, looking at the garage, the cars, the lights spilling onto the pavement. Jason caught her eye and lifted a hand. She waved back. Between chrome and coffee, wheels and wrenches, something was building, slowly, carefully, like a restoration done right. Chapter 4, the Camaro problem. The problem with loving your kids, Jason had learned, was that it made you predictable, to them, to the world, and especially to the people who knew exactly where your soft spots were. Like his ex-wife. The call came on a Thursday afternoon while Jason was wet sanding the Camaro's hood. He saw her name on the screen and considered, briefly, pretending not to notice. Then he sighed, wiped his hands, and answered. Hey, Karen. I heard, she said, skipping hello entirely. Jason closed his eyes. Heard what? Don't do that, she snapped. Ethan told me. Jason glanced through the open bay door. His son was sitting on a stool, headphones on, scrolling through his phone, blissfully unaware that he just detonated a parental landmine. You bought him a muscle car, Karen continued. A 1969 Camaro. Jason. Are you out of your mind? I didn't buy it, Jason said calmly. I restored it. That is not better. It is to me. Karen laughed, sharp and humorless. He's 16. That car is dangerous. So is a phone, Jason shot back. So is driving tired. So is not teaching him respect for what he's handling. This is about you, she said. This is about you wanting to be the fun parent. Jason felt something hot and familiar rise in his chest. This is about me spending 2 years rebuilding something with my own hands, so my son understands work, responsibility, and pride. Silence crackled on the line. You don't get to make unilateral decisions like this, Karen said finally. He lives with me in the summer, Jason replied. And the car stays with me. He doesn't drive it without my permission. Ever. Another pause. I'll talk to my lawyer, she said. Jason almost laughed. Of course you will. The line went dead. Jason stood there for a long moment, phone still in his hand, the Camaro's unfinished hood gleaming under the shop lights like it was listening. Dad. Jason turned. Ethan had pulled his headphones down. You okay? Jason forced a smile. Yeah, buddy. Just adult stuff. Ethan hesitated. If it's a problem, it's not, Jason said quickly. Too quickly. It's not a problem. Ethan nodded, but he didn't look convinced. That evening, Jason locked up the garage later than usual. The diner across the street was still open, neon humming softly, 1950s music drifting into the warm night air. Without quite deciding to, Jason crossed the road. Mary was behind the counter, hair pulled back, sleeves rolled up. She looked tired but content, the particular exhaustion of someone building something from scratch. You look like someone yelled at you, she said, pouring him coffee without asking. Is it that obvious? Only to people who've been yelled at professionally, she replied. Jason took a sip. My ex-wife found out about the Camaro. Mary leaned her elbows on the counter. Ah, she thinks it's too much, too dangerous, too me. Mary tilted her head. And what do you think? Jason stared into his coffee. I think she's not wrong about the danger. I also think sheltering kids doesn't make them safer. It just makes them unprepared. Mary nodded slowly. When Sophie was younger, I wouldn't let her ride her bike out of the driveway. And now she bikes to school. I taught her how to fall instead. Jason smiled faintly. Exactly. Mary hesitated. Do you want me to say it's worth the fight? Jason looked up. Do you think it is? She met his gaze, steady and honest. I think your kids will remember how much thought you put into loving them, even if they don't always agree with the method. Something loosened in his chest. Thank you. She slid a slice of pie toward him. Also, this helps. The next few days were tense. Jason worked on the Camaro with renewed focus, channeling frustration into precision. Ethan hovered more than usual, asking questions, holding tools, learning without realizing it. You nervous? Jason asked him one afternoon. Ethan shrugged. A little. Mom's freaking out. Jason winced. I'm sorry you're stuck in the middle. Ethan shook his head. It's okay. I know you're not doing this to be cool. You're doing it because you. Jason laughed softly. High praise. Across the street, Mary wrestled with her own doubts. The diner was doing well, too well sometimes. Long hours, thin margins, Sophie complaining that she never saw her. You always say you're busy, Sophie said one night, slouched in a booth after closing. But busy with what? People? Mary sighed. With keeping the lights on. Sophie watched Jason locking up the garage outside. You like him? Mary blinked. That's not. You do, Sophie insisted. You smile differently. Mary leaned back. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. Sophie shrugged. You don't have to be ready. Just don't pretend you don't want it. Sunday came, bright and busy. The restoration crowd filled the lot, the sheriff Studebaker shining proudly in front of the diner. Jason and Mary moved between their worlds, intersecting in glances and half-smiles. Karen didn't show up, but the tension did. When the day finally wound down, Jason sat on the curb, exhausted. Mary joined him, handing him a soda. "You survived," she said. "Barely." They sat in silence, watching the sky darken. "Jason," Mary said softly, "if this gets messy with your ex, with your kids, I don't want to make things harder." He looked at her, surprised. "You're not." She smiled sadly. "I know how easy it is to complicate things just by existing." Jason considered that, then shook his head. "You don't complicate my life. You add to it." Mary's breath caught. "That's dangerous talk." "Yeah," he agreed. "I'm learning to live with danger." She laughed, quiet and real. Across the street, the Camaro waited, unfinished, powerful, full of potential, like everything else worth caring about. Chapter 5, where Sundays go to blur. If Jason had to pinpoint when the diner and the garage stopped being two separate places, he'd say it happened on a Sunday afternoon in late July. One of those days where the heat pressed down gently, like it was in no hurry and nobody wanted to be anywhere else. It started, as it usually did, with cars. By 10 in the morning, the parking lot was full, Camrys and pickup trucks mingling with Chevelles, Mustangs, and a turquoise 57 Bel Air that looked like it had never known a bad decade. Hoods were up, radios were on, and someone had already claimed the far corner of the lot for a folding table stacked with crockpots. Across the street, the diner doors were open wide. Music spilled out, Buddy Holly this time, and the smell of bacon carried farther than it had any right to. Jason wiped sweat from his forehead and stepped back from the Camaro, admiring the way the orange paint caught the light. It wasn't finished yet, but it was close enough that he could see the end of the road. "You're staring again," Ethan said, handing him a bottle of water. "I'm appreciating," Jason corrected. Ethan smirked. "You look like you're about to name it." Jason snorted. "Don't be ridiculous." Lily appeared, already chewing on something. "Mary said we could take milkshakes over here if we promise not to spill." "That sounds suspiciously like a challenge," Jason said. She grinned. "We won't spill on the cars." "Probably." True to her word, Lily and Sophie arrived 10 minutes later with a tray of milkshakes, navigating between bumpers and toolboxes with surprising care. "Diplomatic mission," Sophie announced. "From the diner." The sheriff accepted his shake solemnly. "Tell Mary this is excellent work." "She already knows," Sophie said. Jason watched Mary through the diner window as she leaned against the counter, laughing with a customer. She wore a pale yellow dress today, hair loose around her shoulders. She looked like she belonged there, like she always had. Without quite planning to, Jason crossed the street. Inside, the diner hummed with easy energy. Families filled booths, mechanics leaned at the counter, and Mary moved through it all like she'd been doing this for decades instead of months. "You escaped," she said when she spotted him. "Temporarily," Jason replied. "I brought reinforcements." He gestured to Ethan and Lily trailing behind him, both scanning the room. "This place is packed," Ethan said. Mary smiled. "That's the idea." Lily slid onto a stool. "Do you ever get tired of smiling?" Mary considered. "Yes, but then someone tells me they remember coming here as a kid, or that their dad used to bring them after church, and I smile again anyway." Lily nodded, satisfied. Jason leaned on the counter. "You've done something special here." Mary met his gaze. "So have you. I've never seen people talk about cars like their family." Jason smiled. "Sometimes they are." The afternoon unfolded without urgency. People drifted between the garage and the diner, plates and tools trading hands. Someone turned the radio up. Someone else started a grill. At one point, Mary stepped outside, hands on her hips, surveying the scene. "I didn't plan this part," she said. Jason stood beside her. "Neither did I." She glanced at him. "Do you ever worry it's temporary?" "All the time," he admitted. "But I try not to let that stop me from enjoying it." Mary nodded. "I'm not good at that yet." Later, as the sun dipped lower, the crowd thinned. The kids gathered near the Camaro, Ethan tracing the curve of the hood without touching it. "It's almost ready," Ethan said quietly. "Yeah," Jason said. "Another week or two." Ethan hesitated. "Mom's still mad." Jason sighed. "I know. But," Ethan added, "I think she's more scared than mad." Jason looked at him, surprised. Ethan shrugged. "I get it. She worries about losing control." "You don't. You teach." Jason swallowed. "You've been thinking. Don't make a big deal out of it," Ethan said quickly. Across the street, Mary locked up the diner just as twilight settled in. Jason watched her check the doors twice, then stand there for a moment, alone. He crossed the street again. "Long day," she said when she saw him. "Good one, though." She nodded. "The best kind." They stood in the quiet that followed, a rare thing for both of them. "Jason," Mary said, hesitant. "I need to say something before I talk myself out of it." He turned fully toward her. "Okay. I like what this is," she said. This orbit we're in. But I'm scared to change it." Jason felt his chest tighten. "Because it might get harder." "Yes." He nodded slowly. "I get that." She searched his face. "And you?" "I'm scared too," he admitted. "But I don't want fear to make my decisions anymore." Mary's breath hitched, just slightly. For a moment, the space between them felt charged, close enough to cross, fragile enough to shatter. Then Sophie's voice carried from inside the diner. "Mom? I need help with the register." Mary exhaled, something like regret flickering across her face. "Real life," she said. "Yeah," Jason replied softly. She squeezed his hand, quick, grounding, and turned back toward the diner. Jason watched her go, aware that something had shifted even without a kiss, even without a promise. Across the street, the Camaro waited. Behind him, the garage lights hummed. In front of him, the diner glowed. And Jason knew, whatever came next, there was no going back to the way things were before. Chapter 6, Misfires. The trouble started on a Tuesday, which felt unfair. Tuesdays were supposed to be quiet. No Sunday crowds, no restoration chaos spilling into the street, just the steady rhythm of work and the soft comfort of routine. Jason liked Tuesdays because they didn't ask much of him. This one asked too much. It began with a text from Karen. "We need to talk. About Ethan. Call me." Jason read it twice, jaw tightening. He was under the Camaro, tightening a bracket, the smell of metal and solvent grounding him. He finished the turn carefully before sliding out and sitting up. Ethan was at the workbench, sketching something in a notebook, ideas for the interior, Jason suspected. Lily was across the street, helping Mary wipe down counters before the diner opened for the lunch rush. Jason wiped his hands and called. Karen answered immediately. "I spoke to my lawyer." "Of course you did," Jason thought, but he didn't say it. "And?" he asked. "And he agrees the car is excessive. Potentially negligent." Jason closed his eyes. "Negligent?" "Yes. So here's what's going to happen," Karen continued. "Ethan will not drive that car. At all. Not now, not when he turns 16. And if you insist on keeping it, we'll revisit the custody agreement." That got his attention. "You're threatening custody over a car?" "I'm protecting our son," she snapped. "You're making this about ego." Jason's voice stayed even through sheer force of will. "I'm making it about teaching him responsibility. You don't get to decide that alone." "No," Jason said quietly. "I don't." The call ended without resolution, the tension hanging like a live wire. Jason sat there longer than necessary, the garage suddenly too loud, too small. When he finally stood, Lily was watching him from across the street through the diner window, her brow furrowed. He forced a smile and waved her off. That evening, Mary closed early. A delivery had been late, a fryer had hiccuped, and Sophie had a math test she was panicking about. The diner lights went dark before sunset. Jason noticed. He crossed the street anyway, more out of habit than intention. The door was locked, the neon off. He hesitated, then knocked lightly. Mary opened the door a crack. "Hey, you okay?" he asked. She sighed. "Just tired. Everything all right?" "Yes," she said quickly. Too quickly. "Just one of those days." Jason nodded. "Okay, I'll let you rest." She smiled, small and grateful. "Thank you." He turned back toward the garage, telling himself not to read into it. People were allowed to have bad days. He knew that better than most. The next afternoon, Jason was elbow-deep in paperwork when Mark cleared his throat. Jason? Yeah. There's a guy here. Says he's a lawyer." Jason froze. The man was polite, professional, and devastatingly efficient. He handed Jason a card, then a folder. "Just a preliminary notice," the lawyer said. "Nothing filed yet, but you should be aware." Jason flipped through the pages, his stomach sinking with every word. "Custody. Liability. Risk. Is this really necessary?" Jason asked. The lawyer gave a practiced smile. "My client believes so." When the man left, Jason sat heavily in his chair, the folder open on the desk like an accusation. Across the street, Mary watched him through the diner window. She'd seen the lawyer arrive. She'd seen Jason's shoulders tense, the way he rubbed his face afterward like he was trying to erase something. Sophie noticed too. "Did something happen to Jason?" she asked. Mary hesitated. "I think he's dealing with something." Sophie studied her. "You look like you think it's your fault." Mary winced. "I don't." "You do," Sophie said. "You always think that." Mary turned away. "Go do your homework." That night, Mary sat alone in the diner long after closing, replaying conversations she hadn't meant to overanalyze. "You don't complicate my life. You add to it." She'd wanted to believe that. She still did. But she also knew how fragile Jason's balance was, how much of his life was negotiated, limited, conditional. She knew what it felt like to be the extra variable someone didn't need. So when Jason didn't come by the next day or the day after that, she told herself it was fine. He was busy. He had kids, a garage, a legal mess she didn't fully understand. She didn't tell herself it hurt. Jason noticed her absence just as sharply. The diner stayed open, the music still played, but Mary kept to her side of the street. When he did see her, she was polite, distant, her smile careful. On Friday evening, Lily confronted him. "You did something," she said flatly. Jason looked up from his phone. "I did not." "You did," Lily insisted. "Mary's acting weird." Jason sighed. Sometimes adults have stuff going on. That's what you say when you don't want to explain, Lily replied. Jason considered that. Fair. Did you make her feel like she didn't matter? Lily asked. The question hit harder than he expected. No, Jason said immediately. Then, less certain, I don't think so. Lily crossed her arms. You should check. He wanted to. He really did. But the lawyer's folder sat heavy in his mind. The unspoken threat clear. Don't rock the boat. Saturday passed in a tense quiet. The garage closed early. The diner closed on time. Sunday came anyway. The restoration crowd showed up, as they always did, but the energy was muted. Fewer people crossed the street. The sheriff drank his coffee and frowned at nothing in particular. Mary worked the counter, efficient and composed. Jason avoided her. It was cowardly. He knew that, but it felt safer than saying the wrong thing, than adding weight to a scale already tipped against him. Late afternoon, the crowd thinned. The Camaro sat gleaming, nearly finished, masked for final detailing. Jason stood alone beside it, hands on the hood, staring without seeing. Mary stepped outside, locking the diner door. She stopped when she saw him. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then she said, "Are you okay?" The simplicity of the question undid him. "I don't know," Jason admitted. She nodded. "I figured. I didn't mean to shut you out," he said. Things got complicated." Mary's expression softened, then tightened again. "They already were." Jason frowned. "What do you mean?" She gestured between them, the street, the garage, the diner. It's easy when everything's good. Harder when it's not." Jason took a step closer. "You think I don't want you here?" "I think you're afraid of what wanting me might cost you," Mary said quietly. The truth of it landed like a misfire. Sudden, loud, impossible to ignore. Jason opened his mouth, then closed it again. He didn't have a clean answer. He hated that. Mary nodded, as if his silence confirmed something she'd already suspected. "I should go," she said. "Mary," she paused, not turning back. "I care about you, Jason, but I won't be the thing that makes your life harder." Then she walked away. Jason stood there long after she'd gone. The garage lights buzzing overhead. The Camaro reflecting a man who'd rebuilt engines, but couldn't seem to say the right words when they mattered most. For the first time since starting the restoration, Jason wasn't sure what fixing this would require. And that scared him more than any lawyer ever could. Chapter 7, the longest 2 months. The thing about summer, Jason thought, was that it never announced when it started slipping away. It just did, quietly, like sand through an open hand. August arrived without ceremony. The mornings stayed warm, but the light shifted, angled differently through the garage windows. School supply commercials replaced pool ads. Lily started counting the days out loud, not because she wanted to leave, but because naming something made it feel less sharp. 3 weeks, she said one morning, spooning cereal she didn't really want. Then 2 weekends after that. Then Thanksgiving maybe. Jason poured coffee he didn't need. "You don't have to keep a countdown." "I know," Lily said. "I just like knowing where I am." He understood that better than she realized. The garage stayed busy, but Jason stopped lingering after hours. The Camaro sat finished now. Polished, detailed, immaculate, covered with a soft gray car cover like something sleeping. He hadn't unveiled it yet. Not because he was waiting for permission, but because part of him was afraid that once he did, summer would officially be over. Across the street, the diner ran smoothly without him. Mary still waved when she saw him, still smiled. But it was the polite version, the kind that didn't ask questions, didn't invite more. Jason told himself it was what she wanted. The kids noticed anyway. "You two fighting?" Ethan asked one night, leaning against the workbench. Jason didn't look up from the socket set he was reorganizing. "We're not fighting." Ethan considered that. "Not talking, then?" "Sometimes that's better," Jason said, then winced at his own words. Ethan shook his head. "It doesn't look better." Lily, sitting cross-legged on the shop floor with Sophie, chimed in. "You should fix it." Jason sighed. "Some things aren't like engines, Lil." Sophie looked up. "You still have to open them to see what's wrong." Jason froze. Mary noticed the shift too, even if she pretended not to. Sophie grew quieter, lingering longer after closing, watching the garage lights click off earlier each night. "You're doing the thing," Sophie said one evening, blunt as only a 13-year-old could be. Mary glanced up from counting receipts. "What thing?" "The pushing away thing." Mary closed the register drawer. "I'm being careful." Sophie crossed her arms. "You're being lonely." Mary exhaled. "Those aren't the same." "They are if you let them be," Sophie said. Mary looked out the window toward the garage, dark now, and didn't answer. The custody issue loomed without exploding, an unspoken threat hovering in the background. Karen hadn't followed up yet, but Jason knew better than to relax. He kept his head down, focused on what he could control. Meals, homework, bedtime routines, oil changes. Sunday came as it always did. The restoration crowd was smaller this time. Vacations, end of summer plans, but the sheriff still parked his Studebaker front and center. The diner stayed busy, though Mary moved with less ease, her laughter quieter. Jason worked beside Ethan most of the day, letting his son take the lead more than usual. "You don't have to hover," Ethan said. "I'm supervising," Jason replied. Ethan smirked. "You're stalling." Jason didn't deny it. Late afternoon, the sky clouded over unexpectedly. A low rumble of thunder rolled in the distance. Mary stepped outside to bring in the sidewalk sign just as the first drops fell. Jason watched from across the street, then, without quite deciding to, jogged over. "Storm's coming," he said. "I know," she replied, bracing the sign. "I saw the clouds. They stood there, rain beginning to fall in earnest, neither moving away. "The kids leave in 9 days," Jason said suddenly. Mary looked at him. "I know. I hate this part," he admitted. "Every year I tell myself I'll handle it better." She nodded. "You won't." He huffed a quiet laugh. "No." The rain picked up, drumming against the pavement. The street emptied, the moment narrowing to just them. "I didn't stop talking to you because I don't care," Jason said. "I stopped because I was afraid." Mary's breath caught, just barely. "Of me. Of losing more than I already have," he said. "I've built my life around limited time. Anything that threatens, that feels dangerous." Mary swallowed. "I don't want to be another risk you manage." "I don't want you to leave because you think you are," he replied. They stood there, rain soaking through their clothes, words finally where silence had been. "I need you to understand," Mary said quietly. "I won't compete with your kids. I won't demand space you don't have." Jason shook his head. "I don't want you to shrink to fit my fear." She met his eyes. "Then don't make me." Thunder cracked overhead, close and loud. They both startled, then laughed, tension breaking just enough. "I'm not asking for promises," Mary said. "Just honesty." Jason nodded. "I can do that." Inside the garage, Lily watched through the rain-streaked window and grinned. "They're fixing it," she said. Ethan leaned beside her. "Took them long enough." That night, Jason cooked dinner with more effort than usual. They ate together, lingered longer at the table. Afterward, he pulled the car cover off the Camaro. Ethan stared. "You're serious?" Jason smiled. "Always was." They didn't drive it. They just sat in it, hands on the wheel, talking about everything and nothing. Later, Jason stood on his porch, watching the diner lights glow again. Mary locked up, glanced his way. This time, she crossed the street. Summer was ending. That was unavoidable. But some things, Jason realized, didn't have to be temporary just because they started that way. Chapter 8, Orange Paint and Brave Words. The Camaro reveal happened on a Wednesday, which Jason hadn't planned. It just reached a point where there was nothing left to do. The last detail, a small, almost obsessive adjustment to the alignment of the black racing stripes, took longer than it should have. Jason worked slowly, deliberately, like if he stretched it out far enough, time might agree to pause. When he finally stepped back, the car stood finished beneath the shop lights. Chevy orange glowing deep and rich, black top crisp and clean, chrome polished until it caught reflections like memory. Jason exhaled. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay." Ethan hovered near the workbench, pretending not to stare. Lily leaned against the tool cabinet, arms crossed, doing a poor job of hiding her grin. "So," Lily said, "are we allowed to look now? Or is this still one of your dramatic pauses?" Jason smiled. "You can look." He pulled the cover away in one smooth motion. Ethan froze. The garage went silent except for the faint hum of the lights. "Oh," Ethan said. Then softer. "Oh." He walked around the car slowly, not touching it at first. Jason didn't rush him. Some moments deserved space. "You did all this," Ethan said finally. "Didn't you?" Jason nodded. "Every bolt." Ethan stopped at the driver's side door, hand hovering. "Can I?" "Yeah," Jason said. "You can." Ethan opened the door and sat, hands resting on the steering wheel like it was something alive. He swallowed hard. "I don't even know what to say," he admitted. Jason leaned against the fender. "You don't have to say anything." But Ethan did anyway. "I'll take care of it," he said. "I swear. I won't be stupid. I won't drive it unless you say so. I know it's not just a car." Jason's chest tightened. "That's all I wanted you to understand." From the diner window across the street, Mary watched the scene unfold. She hadn't meant to. She'd just been refilling sugar dispensers when she noticed the garage lights brighter than usual. The car uncovered. The way Jason and Ethan stood together like they were inside a private world. Sophie noticed too. "Is that the car?" she asked. Mary nodded. "Yeah. It's kind of amazing," Sophie said. Mary smiled faintly. "It is." She wiped her hands on a towel, hesitated, then did something she'd been avoiding all week. She walked across the street. Jason saw her before she reached the garage. His heart kicked up painfully, stupidly hopeful. Mary stopped just inside the open bay, taking in the Camaro with an appreciative whistle. "Wow," she said. "Pictures didn't do it justice." Jason laughed. "You saw pictures?" "Small town," she replied. "Someone texted." Ethan climbed out of the car, suddenly aware of her. "Hi." Mary smiled warmly. "Hi. This must be the proud owner." Ethan shook his head quickly. "Borrower. With rules." Mary laughed. "Good." Jason gestured awkwardly. "You came by." "I did," Mary said. "I realized if I didn't, I'd regret it." Sophie lingered at the edge of the bay, watching the adults with narrowed eyes. "I'll give you space," Ethan said, far too casually. He herded Lily toward the back of the shop. "Come on. Dad stuff." Jason watched them go, then turned back to Mary. "I should have come to you sooner," he said. Mary nodded. "I should have given you more room to do that." They stood there, the Camaro between them like a shared accomplishment neither quite knew how to claim. "I talked to Karen," Jason said. "Again." Mary's shoulders tensed. "And?" "She's still worried," he said. "But she agreed, if the car stays here, if Ethan only drives it with me, if we put it in writing, that she won't push the custody thing." Mary exhaled slowly. "That's good." "It is," Jason agreed. "But it made something clear." Mary met his eyes. "What's that?" "I can't keep making decisions based on what I'm afraid of losing," he said. "Because that list keeps getting longer." Mary's breath caught. "Jason, I'm not asking you to fix anything," he said quickly. "Or wait, or be smaller. He swallowed. "I want you here. Not across the street. Not at arm's length." Silence stretched, thick and fragile. Mary stepped closer. "I need to know you're choosing this. Not clinging to it because everything else feels unstable." Jason didn't hesitate. "I'm choosing you." That did it. Mary laughed softly, once, like something breaking open. "Okay," she said. "Okay." She reached for him, tentative at first, giving him time to pull away. He didn't. Their kiss was gentle, unrushed, honest, the kind that didn't pretend it erased complications. It just acknowledged desire, relief, and choice all at once. Behind them, someone cleared their throat loudly. Jason pulled back, startled. The sheriff stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets, studying the Camaro. "Nice car," he said. "You done with it? Or is this still a private moment?" Jason groaned. "You saw nothing." The sheriff grinned. "I saw a community project come together." Mary laughed, leaning into Jason's side. That night, the diner stayed open late. The garage lights burned longer than usual. People came by, congratulated Ethan, admired the car, ordered pie they didn't need. Jason stood outside with Mary, watching the street glow. "You know summer's almost over," she said. "I know," he replied. "But this doesn't have to be." She smiled. "No, it doesn't." Across the street, the Camaro gleamed, finished at last. But Jason knew now that some things weren't about reaching the end. They were about deciding what was worth keeping when the season changed. Chapter 9, A Place to Come Back to. The morning the kids left, Jason woke before the alarm. The house was quiet in that fragile way that only existed on transition days. Too still to be peaceful, too aware of what was about to change. He lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, letting the weight settle instead of fighting it. This was the part he never mastered. Down the hall, a door creaked, then another. The sounds were familiar now. The soft thud of a duffel bag hitting the floor, the clink of a spoon against a cereal bowl. Life continuing even when it hurt. Jason got up and made breakfast like he always did, eggs, toast, too much bacon. He didn't comment on how Lily ate slower than usual, or how Ethan checked his phone like he was bracing himself for the countdown. They talked about school schedules, about a movie Ethan wanted to see over winter break, about how Lily's science teacher gave homework like it was a personal vendetta. They talked about everything except the clock. After dishes, Jason grabbed his keys. "Come on." Ethan's head snapped up. "Where are we going?" "You'll see." They walked into the garage together. Sunlight streamed through the open bay, catching dust motes in the air. The Camaro sat uncovered, gleaming like it knew today mattered. Lily stopped short. "It looks different." Jason smiled. "Because it's finished." Ethan swallowed. "You sure?" Jason nodded. "Yeah." He opened the driver's door and tossed Ethan the keys. "Dad, don't panic," Jason said. "You're not driving." Ethan blinked. Then, "I am," Jason said. "You're riding shotgun." Lily gasped. "I call back seat." Jason laughed. "There is no back seat." She grinned anyway. "I'll sit dramatically." They didn't go far. Just around the block. Slow, controlled, windows down. Jason narrated everything he did, the feel of the clutch, the response of the engine, why he eased into turns instead of pushing them. Ethan listened like he was storing every word. When they pulled back into the driveway, no one spoke for a moment. Then Ethan said quietly, "Thank you." Jason nodded. "Anytime." The goodbye was harder. Lily hugged him fiercely, face pressed into his chest. "You better not forget to text." "Never," Jason said, kissing the top of her head. Ethan hugged him too, quick, solid, adult in a way that still caught Jason off guard. "I'm proud of you," Jason said. Ethan smiled. "I know." The truck pulled away, taillights disappearing down the street. Jason stood there until they were gone, until the sound faded and the space they left behind settled into something real. Across the street, The diner door opened. Mary crossed over without hesitation, coffee in hand. She didn't say anything at first, just handed him the cup and stood beside him. "They okay?" she asked gently. "Yeah," Jason said. His voice caught, then steadied. "They always are." She nodded. "Doesn't make it easier." "No," he agreed. "It doesn't." They stood there together, the quiet no longer lonely. Later that day, the town did what it always did when someone needed reminding they weren't alone. The sheriff stopped by the garage, just to check something. A couple from the restoration group brought over leftover sandwiches. Someone left a pie on the diner counter without explanation. Jason worked with the garage door open, letting the noise and small kindnesses fill the space. Mary moved between the diner and the garage, not hovering, just present. That night, they locked up together. "So," Mary said, sliding the diner key into her pocket. "First quiet night in 2 months." Jason nodded. "I never know what to do with them." She smiled. "Want company while you figure it out?" He didn't hesitate. "Yeah, I do." They sat on the curb between the garage and the diner, legs stretched out, the streetlights casting everything in soft amber. "I was thinking," Mary said, "about what you said, about not making decisions based on fear." Jason glanced at her. "Dangerous thinking." She laughed. "I know, but I meant what I said too. I'm not here to take space from your kids." "You don't," Jason said. "You add to the space I come back to." She leaned her head against his shoulder, just enough to be intentional. "That's all I want to be." He wrapped an arm around her, feeling the quiet settle. Not empty this time, but earned. The weeks that followed found their rhythm. Jason learned how to live with absence again, but it wasn't the same. He sent pictures of the Camaro to Ethan, commentary included. Lily called to complain about homework and ask Mary's advice about a boy she swore she didn't like. The diner thrived. The garage stayed busy. Sundays blurred again, but in a gentler way. One evening, Jason locked up the garage and didn't feel the urge to stay late. Across the street, Mary was closing too. "You ready?" she asked. "For what?" "For whatever's next," she said. Jason looked at the diner, the garage, the street that had quietly stitched his life back together. "Yeah," he said. "I think I am." They walked home together. Not because everything was settled, not because life had suddenly simplified, but because they'd chosen something steady in the middle of it. The Camaro rested under its cover. The diner lights went dark. The town settled. And Jason knew, no matter how the seasons changed, this was a place he could come back to.